Hey Bob, here again. I'm here with Juan Bronson. He's been showing me around his plantation. It's unbelievable, Juan, but we're looking at Dalbergia stevensoni, which we call Honduras rosewood. Yeah. Tell us about this.
So this essentially was a project that sort of started as an ethnobotanical experiment. My dad's an archaeologist, and in the national parks we found some seed, started experimenting with it, and found that it grew faster than people assumed. You talk to people about rosewood and they're like, it's going to take 50, 80, 100 years. But it's not true, especially if you manage it and stimulate the growth vertically, you get some pretty good growth. These trees are 22, 23 years old. Fantastic. They don't grow as fast as, say, a teak or a mahogany, but it's not as slow as what we previously thought. So this plantation here is one of the first plantations, probably in Central America, where we do it at a medium scale, sort of more of a commercial scale, and feel like we can prove that, you know, if you assume a 30-year rotation or something like that, that you're going to have a decent amount of wood.
Fantastic. Now, it's, I look here, I see a bunch of trees, don't know how big it is, but take a guess at how many trees you have planted.
We have, the rosewood species, we have probably 12,000.
12,000 trees. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, they're in different sections.
Yeah.
But over there we have probably 3 hectares. This is 1.5. We have another 2 over there in different areas, between 10 and 12,000.
Wow. But this is what I've been talking about. Without planting, there's no sustainability, right? This is the only true sustainable model, is to plant, in my opinion. How do you feel? Yeah,
oh, absolutely. Really the only sustainable source of tropical hardwoods in particular is through the plantation.
Everything else is managing the decline.
Otherwise, you're going into a forest, and maybe the concessions actually do pretty good work. They'll go in there and they'll do some selective logging. But regardless, you're entering a place that was in a natural state and actually opening corridors for people that are behind you. Yeah. So even though the concessions are doing things well, it's the follow-up after the concessions, the long-term effect that can have some effect. Also, we're losing our genetic sources when they go out and select and cut down, as people will do, cut down the biggest trees.
The big best goes first, and
so we lose that seed source, and it's really a tragedy. So that's another thing we're trying to do here is find the best seed sources and germinate them and plant them and keep them on the property.
People think about a plantation, or this is agroforestry is what it is, and you can call it plantation, you can call it a forest that we're building, but the fact is you get birds, animals. This is a real viable forest for people who don't know. They take a word, they associate it with something, but you've got incredible wildlife coming in here.
Well, our model is all about reforesting areas that were deforested. Right. So, this was all pasture land at one point, and so reforesting pasture land. But anything that's natural forest, obviously you don't want to cut down the natural forest and then plant something else.
No.
Because you kill the sustainability factor.
But there's already been hundreds of thousands, millions of acres of that already done. So you put it back together.
No, and there are tangible economic reasons to do that. Like right now we use forests as buffer zones. Because inevitably in agriculture, either you're going to get some kind of human problem, you're going to get a disease problem or a fire. If you can protect those areas with natural buffer systems that contain wildlife and biodiversity and all that, over the long term, you're going to reduce your risk.
Absolutely.
And so there's actually like real good reasons to preserve forests. And also everything that's along a waterway will keep forested in a natural state.
Now what I think is worth mentioning is this isn't a small operation. How many hectares do you have in total?
Right now under management we have about 550 hectares.
Yeah, more than 1,000 acres? 1,100 acres?
1,200 acres.
1,200 acres. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's all using this polyculture system. So there are certain instances like this where we'll do rosewood in clusters. You know?
Sure.
But you'll never see, 500 acres of the same thing.
Sure. Yeah. I just did a little video a minute ago where there's some trials of mahoganies, and they just look almost park-like. And I explained to them that this is where you're doing trials and you're planting them in an orderly fashion. But here's more natural.
Actually, most of the plantation's that way, so we'll see that. So we'll see the rows are all spaced at a very specific spacing, 3x3 spacing. And a lot of that helps because you're stimulating vertical growth. They're like looking for sunlight. If you're talking about mahogany, it makes it easier to control the hypsophila if it's all in one cluster.
I see.
So if we planted like one mahogany here, one rosewood there, one ormigo there, then the management of that particular species would be a lot more.
Yeah.
Be better for biodiversity. So what we've done now is we're doing it in clusters. So we'll do.
You have
certain cluster
biodiversity across
this,
your acreage.
and then surrounded by natural forest.
Yeah. Perfect. Incredible.